When people tell you the inspirational story of Bill Gates, when they tell you how talented and hardworking Bill Gates is, you really can't doubt his talent or hard work. But a part of his story is never told to the people. Had you been in Bill Gates' place, and even if you were equally talented and hardworking as Bill Gates, you still would not have achieved what he has. Why am I saying this? Come, let's find out. Let me tell you the story of a boy who started with nothing but a curious mind and an unstoppable desire to learn. He was not born with extraordinary powers. He wasn't born a billionaire or a genius. But through his passion, determination, and love for learning, he became one of the most powerful and influential figures in the world. This boy is Bill Gates, a name that has become a symbol of success and innovation. His story is not just about becoming rich. It's about believing in your dreams, working hard, and turning ideas into reality. It's about never giving up no matter how tough life gets. Today, we will begin his journey. We'll talk about his childhood, his curiosity, the struggles he faced, and how his love for computers started. By the time you finish this story, you'll not only know Bill Gates' early life, but also feel inspired to chase your own dreams. And remember, as we go along, keep learning new English words and phrases, just like Bill Gates believed in learning something new every day. Bill Gates was born on October 28, 1955, in Seattle, Washington, USA, into a loving and supportive family. His full name, William Henry Gates III, came from his father and grandfather, as he was the third in the line. But no one in his family could have guessed that this small boy would one day become a global icon. Bill's family was neither very rich nor very poor. They lived a comfortable middle-class life. His father, William H. Gates Sr., was a tall and disciplined lawyer. He believed in hard work and education. His mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, was a kind and intelligent woman who worked as a teacher and later served on corporate boards. Even as a baby, Bill was curious. His parents often joked that he could stare at something for hours, trying to understand how it worked. This curiosity would become one of his greatest strengths. He developed his first program on the computer. Fast forwarding to some years later, Bill Gates became the richest man in the world. He remained the richest person for about 20 years. Today, he's the fourth richest with a wealth of $124 billion. Let's start at the beginning. From an early age, Bill showed signs of brilliance. He loved books. He read everything he could get his hands on. By the age of 7, he was devouring books on science, history, and even law. His favorite place was the family's small library, where he could sit for hours with a book in his lap. But Bill wasn't perfect. In school, he was often bored because the lessons were too easy for him. He didn't like following rules, and sometimes his teachers complained that he was too restless. However, his sharp mind made him stand out. One day, when he was 9 years old, a teacher asked Bill, "Why do you always look distracted in class?" Bill confidently replied, "Because I've already read the book." His parents realized that Bill needed more challenges, so they enrolled him in the prestigious Lakeside School, known for encouraging bright students. At 12 years old, Bill Gates was studying at Lakeside School, a private school in Seattle. At school, He had some friends who were equally passionate about computers. Lakeside School would change Bill's life forever. It was here that he was introduced to something that fascinated him more than books: computers. In the late 1960s, computers were rare. They were massive machines that filled entire rooms, and only big companies or universities owned them. But Lakeside had a computer, and Bill was immediately drawn to it. The first time he touched a computer keyboard, he felt like he had discovered magic. This wasn't a computer like the ones we're familiar with. It was the teletype Model 33ASR of the time, connected through phone lines to the computers of the General Electric Company. But this surprised young Bill. Kent Evans, Bill Gates' first best friend, Paul Allen, a 10th grader, and Rick Wyland. The four of them started the Lakeside Programmers Group. They tried to come up with ways to use the computer outside school too. In Seattle, there was a small company called Computer Center Corporation. They rented out computers by the hour. A year later, in 1968, Bill and his friends started visiting this store to use the computers. But the cost to do this was quite high. This store charged $40 to use a computer for an hour. So Bill and his friends started looking for bugs in the operating system of CCC. They found the loopholes in the computer system and tried to exploit those for more computer time. When they were caught, they were banned by the store. But next summer, this small company thought of using these kids to look for bugs in the system. They said that they could use the computers for free if they kept on identifying the problems in the system. Here, Bill Gates learned several programming languages: Fortran, Lisp. But soon this small store went out of business. Again, these kids were left with no means to access computers. Then they found a company in Portland called Information Sciences Incorporated. This company allowed them to use their computers for free too, as long as they wrote a program for the company. It was a payroll program. It helped them learn more about taxes and payrolls. Bill would spend hours in the computer room learning how to program. His passion was so strong that he often skipped other classes just to work on the computer. At first, his teachers were annoyed, but soon they realized that Bill had a special talent. One day, his math teacher said, "Bill, you might just change the world someday." Bill didn't just use the computer for fun. At the age of 13, he created his first computer program. It was a simple game of tic-tac-toe, where a user could play against the computer. This small achievement filled him with pride and showed him what was possible with programming. During his time at Lakeside, Bill met Paul Allen, a senior student who shared his love for computers. Paul was quiet and thoughtful, while Bill was energetic and outspoken. Despite their differences, they became close friends because of their shared passion. Paul and Bill would spend hours talking about the future of computers. One day, Paul said, "Bill, I believe one day there will be a computer on every desk and in every home." This idea seemed impossible at the time. Computers were expensive, and only big businesses used them. But Bill believed it too. They started dreaming together about how they could make this vision a reality. By the time Bill was 15, he wasn't just learning, he was earning. Along with Paul Allen, he started his first business, Traf O Data, which created a program to analyze traffic data for cities. They earned $20,000 from this project, a huge amount of money for teenagers in the 1970s. This experience taught Bill an important lesson. Success isn't just about ideas, it's about turning those ideas into action. He realized that to achieve big dreams, you have to work hard and take risks. Bill's love for learning and working didn't mean he was always serious. He had a playful side too. At Lakeside, he loved sitting with girls during classes, not to flirt, but because he believed girls were more focused and disciplined. This habit made him more comfortable interacting with people and building connections. But Bill was also competitive. He loved challenges and would often bet with his friends on who could solve a problem faster. He hated losing and would do whatever it took to come out on top. His parents sometimes worried about his obsession with computers. One evening, his mother said, "Bill, you can't spend your whole life in front of a computer." Bill replied with a smile, "Why not, Mom?" One day, computers will change the world, and I want to be part of that. Even as a teenager, Bill showed signs of leadership. He wasn't just interested in programming, he wanted to build something big. He dreamed of creating a company that would make computers accessible to everyone. At Lakeside, Bill and Paul would stay late at night discussing their dreams. They didn't have all the answers, but they had one thing in common: a vision for the future. In 1973, when Bill Gates was just 18 years old, he enrolled at Harvard University, one of the best colleges in the world. His parents were thrilled because Harvard was a big deal, and they believed Bill would become a successful lawyer like his father. But Bill had a different plan. While other students were busy studying law, history, or medicine, Bill spent most of his time in the computer lab. He skipped classes to learn more about programming and write code. He loved solving problems and creating software that could make computers work faster. One day, a professor at Harvard asked Bill, "Why don't you focus on your studies instead of spending all your time with computers?" Bill smiled and said, "Because this is the future. Computers will change everything, and I want to be ready for it." Even at Harvard, Bill's passion for computers made him stand out. He wasn't just a student. He was a visionary. In 1974, while Bill was still in college, something happened that would change his life forever. One day, while Paul was going somewhere, he came across a magazine stall, which carried the magazine Popular Electronics. The picture on the front page of the magazine was of Altair 8800, a company called MITS, created the first personal computer, called the Altair 8800, the first personal computer in the world. It had the Intel 8080 processor. Paul bought the magazine and ran to show it to Bill Gates. Paul was trying to tell Bill Gates for quite some time that the size of the computer chips was getting exponentially smaller, while their speed and power were exponentially increasing. And it was only a matter of time before a computer was built that was so small that it could be used as a personal computer. There was a live example on the front page of the magazine. Someone had built the computer before Bill Gates and Paul. Paul and Bill called up the company and told them that the two of them would like to write software for them. The most popular programming language at the time was BASIC, so they wanted to write software for the computer in BASIC. Paul had to relocate to another city, while Bill dropped out from Harvard. They built a basic version and sold it to Altair. This was a huge deal because until then, computers were large and expensive, and only big businesses could afford them. When Bill and Paul Allen saw the Altair 8800, they knew this was their chance. They believed that personal computers would become popular, and they wanted to be part of this revolution. Paul called Bill one night and said, "Bill, this is it. We need to act fast before someone else does." Bill agreed. Together, they decided to write a software program that would make the Altair 8800 more useful. But here's the thing. They didn't even own an Altair computer. They had to create the program using nothing but their knowledge and imagination. It was a big risk, but Bill believed in their abilities. In 1975, at the age of 20, Bill made a bold decision. He dropped out of Harvard to start his own company with Paul Allen. Imagine what his parents must have felt. They were disappointed and worried. His mother said, "Bill, what are you doing? Harvard is your future." But Bill replied, "Mom, this is my future. Computers are my passion, and I can't let this opportunity slip away." It wasn't an easy decision. Leaving one of the best universities in the world to start a company with no guarantees was a big risk. But Bill had faith in his vision. In the same year, Bill and Paul started a company they called Microsoft, which stood for Microcomputer Software. Their goal was simple: to create software for personal computers. The first few months were tough. They had no office, no money, and no team, just two young men with a dream. Bill worked day and night writing code and meeting potential clients. Paul focused on building partnerships and spreading the word about their company. Their hard work paid off. The program they created for the Altair 8800 was a success, and soon, other companies started noticing Microsoft. As Microsoft grew, Bill realized he couldn't do everything alone. He needed a team of talented people who shared his passion for innovation. He started hiring the best programmers and engineers he could find. Bill was a tough boss. He demanded excellence and worked harder than anyone else. He would often stay in the office until 2 or 3 a.m., making sure every line of code was perfect. He believed that if you want to achieve greatness, you have to give your best effort every single day. In 1980, Microsoft got its first big break. A company called IBM was building a personal computer and needed an operating system. An operating system is like the brain of a computer. It controls everything. IBM approached Microsoft and asked if they could create one. Bill didn't have an operating system ready, but he didn't say no. Instead, he promised IBM that Microsoft would deliver. Bill quickly bought an existing operating system called QDOS, improved it, and renamed it MS-DOS. He sold it to IBM, and it became a massive success. Every IBM computer now used Microsoft's software. This deal changed everything. Microsoft went from being a small company to a major player in the tech industry. Bill Gates was not just a programmer. He was a leader. He knew how to motivate his team and push them to do their best. He believed in innovation and wasn't afraid to take risks. One of Bill's most famous quotes is, "Success is a lousy teacher." It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. This means that you should never become overconfident, even when you're successful. Bill also believed in continuous learning. He often told his team, never stop improving. There's always a better way to do something. Success didn't come without challenges. Microsoft faced competition from other tech companies, and some people doubted Bill's abilities. But Bill never gave up. He stayed focused, worked hard, and continued to innovate. He believed that every challenge was an opportunity to learn and grow. By the time Bill was in his mid-20s, Microsoft was growing rapidly. But he didn't stop there. He had a bigger vision. He wanted to make computers affordable and accessible to everyone in the world. This vision drove him to work harder than ever. He wanted to change the way people lived, worked, and communicated. By the early 1980s, Microsoft was no longer just a small company. It had become a leader in the software industry. Bill Gates and his team worked tirelessly to create better programs and tools that could be used by everyone, from students to businesses. In 1985, Microsoft launched one of its most famous products, Windows. Windows was a revolutionary operating system that made computers easier to use. Before Windows, computers were complicated, and only experts could operate them. But Windows changed that. Now anyone could use a computer with simple clicks and commands. The launch of Windows was a turning point for Microsoft. It became a huge success and was installed on millions of computers around the world. Bill Gates' dream of bringing computers into every home and office was starting to come true. As Microsoft grew, so did its competition. Other companies like Apple were also developing innovative technology. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, was one of Bill Gates' biggest competitors. But here's the interesting part. While they were rivals, Bill and Steve also had a strange kind of respect for each other. Steve once said, "Bill is unimaginative, but he's brilliant at running a company." And Bill said about Steve, "Steve had a flair for design like no one else. He made things beautiful." Even though they were different in their approaches, both men wanted to change the world with technology. By 1987, at the age of 31, Bill Gates became the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. Can you imagine? A young man who once spent hours in a school computer lab was now one of the richest people on the planet. But Bill didn't let his success make him lazy. Instead, he worked even harder. He believed that with great success comes great responsibility. And they never had to look back since. Microsoft went on to be extremely successful. Windows 98 was launched. As we all know, their software reached all nooks and crannies in the world. Their computers were astoundingly successful. You might find this story very inspirational. A super intelligent boy who's passionate about something, works hard on it, thinks out of the box, and even drops out of his college to pursue his dream, builds a company that gets immensely successful. This boy becomes the richest man in the world. Isn't it a motivational story? An inspirational story? If Bill Gates could do it, why can't you? But friends, as I told you at the beginning of the video, there's a twist in our story. What is it? It is the twist of privilege. How privileged was Bill Gates? Let me explain what I mean in points. As you'll understand, you find that had you been in Bill Gates's place and were as talented and hardworking as Bill Gates, even then you couldn't have been as successful as him. Why? Come, let's see. First, had Bill Gates been a woman, it wouldn't have been possible, because during the 1960s there was significant gender discrimination in the USA. Did you know that in the 1960s, a bank could refuse to give a credit card to a woman? Even if the woman was married, her husband's signature was needed. In many states of the U.S., women couldn't serve on the jury. In 1961, the Supreme Court of the U.S. upheld a Floridian law preventing women from serving on the jury. Women weren't allowed to take birth control pills. It was allowed only after the historic judgment in the U.S. in 1972. 1963's Kennedy's Commission on the Status of Women stated that for every dollar that a man earns, if a woman does the same job and the same work, she earns 59 cents. It was in 1964 the U.S. passed a law preventing gender discrimination against women. And perhaps a more important point, during the 1960s, almost all Ivy League universities didn't grant admission to women. Women weren't even allowed to enter Harvard's library till 1967. Till 1977, the male-to-female ratio was at 4-to-1. Women had to be 4 times as smart as men to get admission to the same university. Harvard had a sister school for women, Radcliffe College. It didn't give the female students the same privileges that the male students got. It was shut down only in 1999, and a common Harvard school was set up where male and female students could get admission without any discrimination. Second, had Bill Gates been black, it wouldn't have been possible. Because the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, before this, the blacks weren't allowed to enter in restaurants, cinema halls, churches, or schools. Even in buses, they had to sit in designated corner, while the buses used to be reserved for the whites. People of color weren't even allowed to vote in several southern states. In 1968, when Bill Gates and Paul Allen were working on their computers in the Computer Center Corporation, Martin Luther King was assassinated because he was fighting for the rights of the people of color. Throughout the 1960s, there were several riots for black rights over racial discrimination. Third, had Bill Gates been born in some other country, or even in another U.S. city, it might not have been possible. Bill and Paul lived in a developed country, a developed city in a developed country. Had Bill Gates been born in India, he might not have seen a computer before he turned 30, because mass-scale adoption of computers was seen in India after 1985. But even if we talk about America, Seattle was an advanced city for computers. Computer technology reached this city in the 1960s. The programming language BASIC was invented in this city. The computer that Bill and Paul were using at the 3C store was one of the first commercial systems to be available in the country. Fourth, even if you were a white male living in Seattle, don't get your hopes up, because not everyone living in Seattle had an access to computers. Bill and Paul both were studying at a top-notch private school. The middle-class people couldn't send their kids to the Lakeside School. Not only were they getting a good quality education at the school, but they were also getting access to the computers. When Bill Gates experienced computers for the first time in 1965, there were only about 22,000 computers all across America, while the population of America was 200 million. Fifth, the influence of parents. Paul Allen's father, Ken, he was the associate director at the Library of the University of Washington. Because of this, Paul could access the books on computers. Bill Gates's parents were also on the governing body of the university. When the CCC store went bankrupt, Paul and Bill went to their parents for help, and they got access to the university's Graduate Computing Center at Roberts Hall. There they worked with various computers. It was here that they saw the first computer game of their lives. Again, it isn't a criticism. Any parent would want to help their kids in any way possible. So Paul and Bill got their parents' help, an advantage. Later in his life, Paul built a library and a computer center, and named the library after his father for this reason. Bill Gates, too, got an advantage of his father's profession. Bill Gates's father was a lawyer, officially registering Microsoft, renting a space, hiring people, fighting legal battles against Altair. These would have been very difficult for a common man, but because his father was a lawyer, Bill Gates could get a lot of legal help from his father. On a related note, not everyone can afford to drop out of college. Bill and Paul could afford this because they had their family's wealth as a reserve. There's another man in our story, Monty Davidoff. When Paul and Bill were working on Altair's basic software, a crucial part of the software was written by Monty. But when Paul and Bill offered Monty a permanent job at Microsoft, Monty refused to drop out of college. He said that his father had a small hardware store, so he couldn't afford to take such a big risk. He had to get a college degree. And thus, it is a very important point. Not everyone can afford to drop out of college. Next point, a major turning for Microsoft was when they got a contract from IBM. Till then, Microsoft was a small company. But how did they get this contract? There's an interesting story to it. The chairperson of IBM at the time was John Opel. He was also a board member of a nonprofit organization, United Way. A co-member of the board of this organization was Mary Maxwell Gates, Bill Gates's mother. She talked to Opel about Microsoft. As Microsoft's competition, there was a big company called Digital Research. It was much bigger than Microsoft. IBM wasn't able to negotiate properly with it. So when Mary suggested Microsoft, IBM's chairman decided to give a chance to Microsoft. This chance that Microsoft got was immensely important. They may not have gotten this chance if Mary Gates was on the same board. Not only this, friends, there's another twist in the story regarding IBM's contract. When Microsoft entered into a contract with IBM, Microsoft didn't even have any software to sell. There was another company called Seattle Computer Products that had a QDOS operating system. Paul bought this QDOS operating system and gave it to IBM. It wasn't the exact copy. They made some modifications to it. They changed the name too. From QDOS, it became MS-DOS, Microsoft DOS. And you know how popular MS-DOS is today. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that these points were the privileges that Bill Gates and Paul Allen had, due to which they could be so successful. With talent and hard work alone, perhaps Bill Gates couldn't have reached the point he is at now. These are the things ignored by many. You can call this privilege blindness. Ignoring privileges. All of us have some privileges. We have different circumstances. We have grown up in different environments. Our parents have different backgrounds. Our caste, our religion. All these do make a difference. Due to these reasons, the starting line for Bill Gates was very ahead of that of a common person who was born in India at the same time. There was a next to impossible chance that an Indian could have reached the point that Bill Gates could reach then. Today, obviously, the world has changed, but these privileges are still valid. Though there are exact same privileges, obviously, there's higher racial equality in America, there's more gender equality, there are more female students at Harvard than males. But even today, in various countries, we get to see privileges of different aspects. One of the aspects of this privilege is the nepotism in Bollywood, or when politicians' children become politicians. Being born in a developed city, growing up there, being born in a background that saw no riots and uprisings, all of these come together to become an advantage for some of you, and will be a disadvantage for the others. A person who got these privileges, I'm not saying that he should be robbed out of all privileges, but they need to acknowledge those privileges. People shouldn't be blind to it. Look around you and acknowledge these. One of Bill's most famous quotes is, "If you are born poor, it's not your fault. But if you die poor, it's your fault." This quote reflects his belief that everyone has the power to change their life with hard work and determination. While Bill was busy building Microsoft, his personal life was also taking shape. In 1987, he met a young woman named Melinda French. She worked at Microsoft and was intelligent, kind, and driven. Bill and Melinda started dating and quickly realized they had a lot in common. Both of them believed in using their success to make the world a better place. In 1994, Bill and Melinda got married in a private ceremony in Hawaii. Their wedding was simple and elegant, reflecting their down-to-earth personalities. Together, they had 3 children: Jennifer Gates, born in 1996, who later became an accomplished equestrian and medical student; Rory Gates, born in 1999, known for being intelligent and private; and Phoebe Gates, born in 2002, who shares her father's passion for education and innovation. Despite being one of the richest families in the world, Bill and Melinda raised their children with humility. They didn't spoil them with endless luxuries, but instead taught them the value of hard work and kindness. Leading a company as big as Microsoft wasn't easy. Bill often faced criticism from the media and other companies. Some people said he was too aggressive in business, while others questioned Microsoft's practices. In the late 1990s, Microsoft faced a major legal challenge. The U.S. government accused the company of using unfair practices to dominate the software market. This was a stressful time for Bill, as the case went on for several years. But Bill didn't give up. He faced the challenges head-on, learned from his mistakes, and continued to lead Microsoft with determination. As Bill grew older, he realized that his wealth could do more than just build a successful company. In 2000, he and Melinda started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, one of the largest charitable organizations in the world. The foundation focuses on solving some of the world's biggest problems, such as improving global health, fighting diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS, providing education, helping children in poor countries go to school and learn, access to clean water, building systems to provide clean drinking water to communities in need. Bill once said, "Money has no utility to me beyond a certain point. Its utility is entirely in building an organization and getting resources out to the poorest in the world." Throughout his life, Bill has shared many powerful words of wisdom. Here are a few of his most inspiring quotes. "I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." This means that simplicity and innovation can come from unexpected places. Don't compare yourself with anyone in this world. If you do, you are insulting yourself. Bill encourages everyone to focus on their own journey and not get distracted by others. Patience is a key element of success. Success doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, effort, and patience. People often wonder how much money Bill Gates makes. While it's hard to calculate exactly, let's break it down. In 1 second, Bill makes around $127. In 1 minute, that's about $7,600. In one day, he earns over $10 million. Even though Bill has so much wealth, he doesn't live an extravagant life. He believes in using his money to help others and create a better world. One day, a young journalist got the chance to interview Bill Gates. The journalist was excited but also nervous. He wanted to ask Bill Gates about the secret of his success. The interview started, and the journalist asked Bill Gates, "Sir, what is the secret of your success?" Bill Gates smiled and took out a blank check from his pocket. He handed the check to the journalist and said, "Write any amount you want and take it." The journalist was shocked. He thought Bill Gates was joking, so he laughed and said, "No, no, sir, I don't want money. I want to know your secret of success." Bill Gates kept smiling and said, "I'm serious. Write any amount. Take it." The journalist felt uncomfortable. He refused again and said, "Sir, I respect you, but I cannot take your money. I just want to learn from you." Bill Gates looked at him and said, "This is the secret of my success. When I see an opportunity, I grab it without hesitation. You had the chance to take this check, but you hesitated. Most people miss their opportunities because they think too much or are afraid to take risks. Success comes to those who take action." The journalist realized the lesson. Success is not just about working hard. It is also about taking risks and making the most of opportunities. By the early 2000s, Microsoft was at the peak of its success. Bill Gates was the face of the tech industry, admired and respected around the world. But as the company grew bigger, Bill realized something important. He wanted to focus on more than just business. In 2006, Bill made a big announcement. He decided to step down from his day-to-day role at Microsoft. This decision shocked many people. Why would someone leave the company they built? But Bill explained his reason. He said, I've been very lucky to achieve success in technology. Now I want to spend my time giving back to the world. After stepping back from Microsoft, Bill focused full-time on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This foundation wasn't just any charity, it was one of the most ambitious projects in the world. Bill said, "The goal is to give every child, no matter where they are born, a chance to live a healthy and productive life." Even with all his efforts, some people questioned if his foundation could really solve such big problems. Others accused him of using his money for power. But Bill didn't let the negativity stop him. Instead, he stayed focused on his mission. He once said, "If I listened to every critic, I would never get anything done." Focus on the work, not the noise. This is a powerful lesson for all of us. No matter what we do in life, there will always be people who doubt us. The key is to stay determined and believe in yourself. Bill is not just about giving money. He is also about finding innovative solutions. One of his most exciting projects is working on clean energy. He realized that climate change is one of the biggest threats to the world. To fight this, he started funding projects to create renewable energy like solar and wind power. He also supported research on nuclear energy that is safe and sustainable. Bill believes that if we invest in science, we can solve even the toughest problems. Even though Bill is no longer running Microsoft, he continues to inspire millions of people. He often gives speeches at schools, universities, and conferences. In his talks, he shares his journey and encourages young people to dream big. One of his most famous pieces of advice is, "Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them." Despite being one of the richest men in the world, Bill Gates lives a surprisingly simple life. Yes, he has a big house, but he doesn't spend his money on flashy cars or unnecessary luxuries. Instead, he loves spending time with his family. He and Melinda worked hard to raise their children with good values. They didn't give their kids unlimited money. In fact, they decided to leave most of their fortune to charity. Bill said, "I want my kids to have their own identity. Giving them too much money would take away their motivation." His parenting style teaches us an important lesson. True success is not about wealth, it's about character. Even as a billionaire, Bill Gates follows a simple routine. He believes that good habits are the foundation of a successful life. Here's a glimpse into his daily life. Morning. Bill starts his day by reading. He reads about science, history, and global issues. He believes that reading expands your mind and helps you think critically. Work. Even though he's no longer at Microsoft, he still works on foundation projects, meets scientists, and reviews progress. Evening. He enjoys playing bridge, a card game, with his friends. It helps him relax and keeps his mind sharp. Bill believes in staying curious. He says, "No matter how busy you are, make time to learn." Learning is the best investment you can make. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Bill Gates played a major role in helping the world. His foundation donated billions of dollars to develop vaccines and distribute them to poor countries. Bill Gates' story is not just about building Microsoft or becoming one of the richest men in the world. It's about redefining what success means. For many, success is wealth, fame, and power. But for Bill, success is about impact, the difference you make in the lives of others. After stepping away from Microsoft, Bill Gates became a symbol of hope and possibility. His journey taught the world that success doesn't end with personal achievements. It begins when you use your success to uplift others. In one of his speeches, he said, "The true measure of success is not how much you've achieved, but how many lives you've improved." This simple yet powerful idea became the foundation of his life's work. Even in his later years, Bill Gates is far from slowing down. He has devoted himself to solving some of the world's biggest challenges. His foundation is tackling climate change, improving education, and eradicating diseases like malaria and polio. Bill often says, "The future is not something we enter, it's something we create. Let's create a future where everyone has a chance to succeed." By 2023, Bill Gates had donated over $50 billion through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But it's not just the amount of money that matters. It's the philosophy behind it. Bill believes that wealth is not meant to be hoarded. He often says, "If you're fortunate enough to be successful, you have a duty to give back." Wealth should be used to solve problems, not create them. His giving inspired other billionaires to follow his lead. In 2010, Bill and Warren Buffett launched the Giving Pledge, a commitment by the world's wealthiest people to donate the majority of their wealth to charity. Today, more than 230 billionaires have joined this movement. This act of generosity shows us that true greatness comes not from what you take, but from what you give. Even though Bill Gates is admired by millions, his life has not been free of challenges. In 2021, he and Melinda announced their divorce after 27 years of marriage. This was a difficult time for him personally and professionally. But instead of letting this situation break him, Bill remained focused on his mission. He and Melinda continued working together on their foundation, putting their shared vision above their personal differences. This chapter of his life teaches us an important lesson. Challenges are inevitable, but how you respond to them defines your character. Bill often says, "Life will test you in ways you can't imagine, but every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger." As one of the most influential figures in history, Bill Gates has shared countless pieces of wisdom. Here are some of his most inspiring thoughts for the next generation. Dream big, start small. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start where you are, use what you have, and build from there. Embrace failure. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. Each mistake teaches you something valuable. Value time. Time is your most precious resource. Use it wisely. Spend it on things that matter, learning, growing, and helping others. Be curious. The world is full of problems, but it's also full of opportunities. Stay curious, keep learning, and find solutions. Kindness is strength. The world needs more compassion. Be kind, not because it's easy, but because it's the right thing to do. He once said, "At the end of the day, it's not about the money, the fame, or the awards. It's about the people you love and the difference you've made. Bill Gates' life is a reminder that anyone, no matter where they start, can achieve greatness. He was once a curious boy who loved reading and computers. Today, he's a global icon who has transformed the world. Here are the key lessons from his journey. Education is power. Never stop learning. Knowledge is the key to unlocking your potential. Take action. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start small and build your way up. Be resilient. Life will have ups and downs, but every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Give back. True success is about helping others. Make a difference in the world. Stay humble. No matter how much you achieve, remember your roots and stay grounded. As we look to the future, Bill Gates' story reminds us that success is not just about personal achievements, it's about the legacy you leave behind. His life is a testament to the power of dreams, determination, and giving back. Bill Gates is more than a tech pioneer or a billionaire. He is a symbol of hope, possibility, and the infinite potential of the human spirit. His journey shows us that greatness is not about where you start, but about where you choose to go.